Welcome once again to Jung Love. We're with you in mind. We take some time to answer questions, take a look at dreams, or some of the other content that you'd like us to consider. As ever, your support is much appreciated. This week, here is a question, and the question is, what are the dynamics in a woman's psyche of the collusion between the negative mother and the negative animus? And for context, she says, I've had two similar dreams recently. In the first, I'm at work, and my mother's in the office and is irritated and upset. A man across the hall is trying to distract me from my work that I haven't been able to do for a long time. In the second dream, my mother has her back turned to me, never acknowledging me, and holding up dinner while my brother is late off doing his own thing. I think I read in one of Marion Woodman's books about how the negative mother and negative animus can collude in a woman's psyche.
Well, I think one of the ideas that comes up naturally for me is how in fairy tales particularly, there can be a problematic female figure, an evil queen, a cursing stepmother.
Mhm.
And sometimes in the fairy tales that there are male figures, huntsmen, soldiers, viziers, for instance, that are in service to the queen and in a sense facilitating this
Mm.
problematic conflict in the psyche. That's one environment where I think that dynamic is captured as a motif.
So that sparks in me the thought of like in Snow White, the wicked queen hires the huntsman who is supposed to kill Snow White and bring back her heart. In Hansel and Gretel, the father, he's not the agent of sending the children out into the woods, but he's absent. He doesn't interfere. Cinderella's father he's just not on the scene. He's somewhere in the background, running a kingdom or doing something. So he doesn't do anything negative, but his absence is harmful.
Right. So sometimes, if we use that formulation, sometimes the animus is inactive, too silent, or a kind of sin of omission.
Mm-hmm.
It is not supporting the ego in standing against the kind of destructive complex.
So one of the things that comes up for me is that dreams give us sort of a snapshot of relations in the inner world. So these dreams are kind of telling this dreamer something about what's going on in the inner world. And to pick up on that important phrase that you just used, Joseph, a kind of destructive complex, it definitely happens that there can be destructive complexes in the psyche that can kind of attack the ego or impinge upon the ego. And dreams can show us that is happening. It's sort of like, look here. And these dreams may indeed be just that. But I wonder about something else, which is she's called the male figures in both of these dreams a negative animus. And I'm not sure that I'm convinced that they're negative. A lot of times, something that seems negative in a dream is something that the ego hasn't been ready to countenance. And so the ego feels challenged by it, but it may not indeed be negative. So, for example, in the first dream, there's this male figure who's trying to distract her. It sounds like she is indeed distracted. She says she hasn't been able to work on this for a long time. But I just want to start by kind of questioning the assumption that is necessarily a bad thing. It might be a just so, like this is what's happening in your psyche, as I said a minute ago. But it might be that there's real telos in it. Like maybe this is not what you're meant to be doing right now. And maybe your ego is pressing forward saying, I need to do that work. But some other part of you is like, no, you actually don't. So I'd be curious about any other information about that man in the dream or about your brother. In what ways might these male figures be bringing something that perhaps is needed And the reason that this
Mhm.
matters is because when you see a kind of working together in a dream, sometimes you see the shadow and the animus kind of working together. And again, it can feel like a negative animus because a lot of times in those types of dreams, it feels like they have this pact and they're over here and somehow the ego is outside. But a lot of times it's communication to the ego about the qualities that need to be worked on. It's often some configuration like if you can be more like the shadow, then you'll have better access to the animus, for example, in some of the dreams that I've seen. So, I mean, the negative mother can obviously be a tremendous burden in the psyche. But I'm wondering what the medicine in these dreams are. And that's what's causing me to think, well, wait a minute, is this bad? Um, Again, I think the two possibilities are it's a snapshot of a really negative complex that's at work that you're going to have to figure out how to face, as it were, or or it's medicinal. It's telling you, hey, um, actually, for example, maybe you don't need to be doing that work. Maybe you need to be more like this over here, or and I didn't quite understand the second dream. There's not a lot of information in it, but maybe if you can get closer to some of the qualities in your brother, then you might be able to get dinner from your mom. So just maybe something to play with in there.
I think I want to sort of take a shortcut through all of the conceptual terminology and complexity of how much is it the negative mother and how much is it the negative animus, and are they so sort of like whoa, and kind of pick up on what I think you're pointing to, Lisa, which is just to consider these dream images on their own. That in the first dream, there's a man who's trying to distract our dream ego from what the dream ego thinks of as her work. So, what are we talking about here? What work? Who is that? Say more. And in the second dream, that we have the brother who is late, and mom is holding up dinner until presumably the brother can get in and be there. So, what is that? An image of some kind of privilege, and where is that in the dreamer? Just go ahead and feel free to work with the dream images themselves. Without the terminology and conceptual stuff here can be a real thicket that may or may not actually be helpful in understanding what's going on in you in a particular dream.
Well, I want to, in addition, just lift up a little bit of the Marion Woodman piece, because Marion has a very particular perspective on this. So in Marion's work, that she is particularly interested in the relationship of the animus, the negative mother, and addiction. And so one of the things that Marion brings forward is that sometimes the inner masculine can turn into a very harsh judge, a distractor,
Mhm.
or can be rather grandiose, kind of a grandiose thinking function that's cut off from feeling. And the Marion says something like, the animus fosters addiction, and in that addictive spirit consumes the feminine because it feeds on a woman's psychic energy without giving her genuine support. And that can be aligned with the negative mother when the internal negative mother is functioning
Mm.
in a kind of devouring, withholding, or chronically dissatisfied state, which is always constellating guilt and inadequacy and a hunger for approval. So the animus that comes forward with addiction as a response to the pain of the negative mother creates a kind of collusion that Marion kind of lifts up. And while that's not explicitly demonstrated in the dream, I think that's where Marion is coming in terms of her own theory. So I think there may be more
Hmm.
in the question than we're able to bring up without the
Yeah.
questioner here in the room with us, perhaps.
Right. Yeah. Goes into some really deep places. So